Good morning, class. For today's lesson, we are going to look at the features of a web browser or the features of a web browser window. Last week, you saw what a web browser is. We said a web browser is an application software installed on computers to help the user to access the internet. And we said a browser is one of the things that we need in order to have connection to the internet. So today we are going to look at some of the features that can be seen when a web browser is being launched on the computer. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the features of a web browser or the features in a web browser window. Before we start, we'll look at what a web browser window is. When we talk of a web browser or a web browser window, we are referring to the rectangular box or the window or the working area that appears when a web browser is launched on the computer. So the window that appears whenever you launch a web browser, being it Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, UC Browser, Opera Mini. The rectangular box that appears on the desktop screen is what we refer to as a web browser window. And this window consists of many features or commands that are being used when it's being connected to the internet by the user. So now let's look at some of the things we can find or see in the browser window. We have the first one to be the title bar. And I hope you know what a title bar is. We always say that a title bar is the first bar seen on top of most windows on the desktop when an application or a file is opened on the computer. So the first bar that we can see in a web browser window is the title bar. And we have the next one to be the URL box or the address box. That one too is also a feature or an element in a web browser window. The next one, we have the search box. The search box. Now we have favorite. We have a feature or an element in a web browser called favorite. The next one, we have home button. We have the home button or the home icon. Then we have the back button. The next one, we have forward. The next one, we have reload or refresh button. Now let's look at the other ones too. We have the control box or the Windows 2. I hope most of you are familiar with this command or tool. It's also located on the title bar. It contains the minimize, the maximize, and the close button. The next one, we have the stop button. Then we have tab or tabs. The next one, we have menu bar. Most of the browsers also have menu bar. Now let's look at this. This is an example of a web browser window. Now I hope you can tell me what window this one is. As we can see, we have the Mozilla Firefox icon displayed over here. So this window is a window for Mozilla Firefox. So this is how a web browser window looks like. So this one is for Mozilla Firefox. We have many features within this browser. So as we can see, we have some icons over here. We mentioned some of them when we're listing the features of a web browser. Now we have the Windows 2 or the control box on top here. The first bar seen over here is what we refer to as the title bar. Now this one is a tab where we have the Mozilla Firefox start page. We refer to that one as a tab. You can click on the plus over here to add more tabs whenever you want to open a different website. Now the box that we have over here where they have written search or enter address is what we refer to as the URL box or the address box. Now when you come here, we have another box which they have written in search. That box is what we refer to as the search box. Now when you come to this side, we have an arrow in the form of a circle. We call that command or icon, reload or refresh. And when you come here, we have an arrow pointing backwards. That is the back button. In some browsers, we have a similar one pointing to the right side. That one becomes the forward button. Here too, this box is also called the search box. And when you come here, we have something like a house. That's what we refer to as the home button. The home button. And the star here is what we call the favorite. So these are some few commands or features that we can see in the Mozilla Firefox window when the application or the browser is being launched on the computer. Now let's have a look at this diagram. We can see some of the commands which were mentioned earlier on. We have the web search, the website address box, we have the home button, we have the stop over here, then we have the refresh or reload, then we have the navigation buttons. That's for the back and the forward button. When you come here, we have bookmark, then we have the tabbed browsing. That is the tabs. So this is how the browser looks like and the elements that we can see in the browser. On top there, we can see Flash Games, Mozilla Firefox on the bar. That bar is what we refer to as the title bar of the browser window. So that's all for today. We will end our lesson here and continue next week. But before you leave, you should do this exercise and submit on your website. So the first question is, write down 5 features or elements of a web browser. Write down 5 features or elements of a web browser window. So you list 5 of the elements or features that are seen in a browser window. The next one, what is a web browser window? So you define or write the meaning of a web browser window. For next week, we'll be looking at the functions of the features of a web browser window. To what we have mentioned, we'll look at how they are being used or how they work within a browser window. That's all for today. Meet you again next week, Wednesday. Bye.